Good evening, humans. Tyrannosaurusmoth here, and tonight we're taking a look at the Legends of Lucha Libre Premium Laredo Kid figure from Boss Fight Studio. Let's do this. Aesthetically speaking, this figure looks awesome, and honestly, this might be the most reuse that we've seen in the entire wave. And I say that because I'm pretty sure that the entire torso, the arms, the thighs, knees, and lower legs are all from Ray Phoenix. Just cast in a different style of plastic. This is definitely much harder than that first wave, and yeah, it works really well. I think it works for Laredo Kid. Not only that, but obviously it's a way there's enough differentiation considering the gear and all of that. So you know, looking at tattoos, like all of those are beautifully done, as they have been. They even continue on to the shoulder covers here around the butterfly joints. So got all that going on. The gear itself looks awesome. I think in the original solicitation photos, this had more of a kind of iridescent look as opposed to just like metallic silver. But I can see where that would change just due to cost, because I cannot imagine how much that color of paint costs. And speaking of that, it is definitely a paint. You can see that there's kind of a flat gray here, flat light gray here. At the actual plastic on the joints, and then it is more of a bright, almost pearlescent silver here on the actual gear. Got some nice gold designs here on the side. We get the nice gold kick pads over the white, very bright white wrestling shoes. And yeah, nicely done all around there. We get some tassels here on the arms, which are actually nestled right between the delt and the bicep. And works really well. It doesn't really move. It moves with the arm, which is as it should. We get some nice new arm wraps here, or actual wraps as opposed to the kind of wrist tape that we see on the other figures. And finally, the head sculpt, which looks absolutely phenomenal. Again, love that Boss Fight gives it that depth between the mask and the actual face sculpt. So yeah, fantastic work all around. Just an awesome looking figure. We get a really nice loadout of accessories here, but there is something to address, and I will get to that. So we're going to start off with hands, and that's what's going to come in. So right out of the box, we do get a pair of grips. And the problem is that mine came with, instead of what the next pair of hands is, which is a pair of fists, mine came with a second pair of gripping hands, which I still have here. And so I was like, oh, well, that's not good. So I had contacted Boss Fight and said, hey, look, here's what happened. I sent pictures as well. So they did, this was, if you watch my Vampiro review, there was another QC issue there that I addressed them with in the same email. And so they're like, okay, we'll get those out to you, which I thought was awesome. And so they sent me replacement hands. Unfortunately, they were the Vampiro hands, and I don't know if that was due to confusion with me also asking for the wrist tape for Vampiro. But I just happened to, as mentioned in a previous review for Tinieblas, I broke my first one, so I just used the fist from there here, and the skin tone is definitely close enough, so I have that. So it should be fists, grips, and then finally we get these gesturing hands with the two fingers extended, holy hands, I guess you could call them. And yeah, so good assortment. Actually, now that I look at these together, they are definitely different tones, so good on them for going for different tones throughout the wave. But yeah, and I actually saw one of these on a peg in a local toy store, and it also had two pairs of gripping hands, so something to be aware of. And if you happen to encounter that, because clearly that is more than just mine, email Boss Fight and they will do the best to accommodate you. I can speak from experience. So there's that. Then we have two different head sculpts. So we looked at this one in the initial, in the last section. So again, excellently done. And I forgot to mention, just I love that they added these like hanging off pieces of his mask. Again, it's a very intricate mask, and they just did a beautiful job of replicating that. I didn't focus on that enough in the last section, but yeah, just amazingly done. And they did that twice, because we get a second head sculpt with the eyes looking slightly more to the left, and him clean shaven, which is pretty much the only difference I can see here. I think it's pretty much the exact same mask. So yeah, there you go. Same mask, just different, looking slightly to the left and clean shaven. And then finally we get the cape, and this thing is resplendent. Just look at the details on the front of that. The way they did this is beautiful. It fits on the figure perfectly. Here we see that iridescence that I think was initially supposed to be on the ring gear, but definitely transferred better here on probably a little bit cheaper to do for the fabric. So yeah, that will do it for accessories. Articulation and balance here are beautiful, very much again akin to what we saw with Ray Phoenix. So freestanding kicks, no problems whatsoever. Our head is on a barbell joint, and that allows us to look up that far, down that far. We get really nice tilt and rotation. Our arms are once again on the kind of pin coming into the body with the ball joint, and that floating joint allows us to go forward and back. We're a little more restricted than we were with other figures in this wave. A little bit of up and down, hinge and swivel for the shoulders. This entire wave, there's a very tight detent right at the top of the delt, so be careful of that. But we do get a nice T. We get bicep swivel, double jointed elbows bringing us to there, though again, heat up your figures. The lower part of the right arm for me wasn't moving, and that kind of made the top of the middle part of the joint actually dig into the bicep on the right arm for mine. So again, be careful. So we get that, then we get hinge and swivel at the wrists, vertical on the grips, and then horizontal on everything else. We get barbell joint for the ball joint for the diaphragm and the waist. It allows for some nice crunch, some crazy arch back, a little bit of gapping, so be careful. Some insane side to side and rotation from both of those joints. Hips come out into a near perfect split. Front kick, perfect 90. We do get bicep swivel, we get thigh swivel, we get double jointed knees bring us to there. Boot cut, perfect point, a little bit of forward, and some excellent rocker. So that will do it for articulation. Getting into size comparisons, here he is with some other boss fight wrestling figures, with some other wrestling lines, with some domestics, with some imports, with some monsters. Finally, with yours truly in human form in both 1/18 and 1/12 scale. So my final thoughts on the Legends of Lucha Libre Premium Laredo Kid figure from Boss Fight Studio is that there's another awesome figure. Again, there's been just so much good stuff coming out of Boss Fight Studio in general, but certainly with the wrestling figures, they're some of my favorites. This wave in particular has absolutely had its QC issues, so I don't know if there was a change in the factory or personnel there or whatever, but there's definitely some stuff going on. Again, for this figure, I had 2 pairs of grips, and I saw that in another figure on a peg, so this might be far more than just my figure. So if that is the case, again, just reach out to Boss Fight. They've had the best customer service as far as I've experienced, so I fully recommend it. It's just unfortunate that some of this stuff happens, but the figure itself is just so good. The articulation is really nice. The figure feels great. The accessories that are there, especially that cape, are just absolutely beautiful. So yeah, if you're a fan of Laredo Kid, absolutely pick this up. That being said, I hope you found this review informative and so entertaining. If that's the case, I hope to see you back here, because doing multiple reviews a week of action figures related to tokusatsu, monsters, pro wrestling, and more. So if any of that appeals to you, come back. Let's talk about some nice plastic, just escape the world for a while. But really, at the end of the day, I hope you're well. I hope that all of your toy dreams come true. And most importantly, I hope that you and yours stay weird, simians.